Let's get to the team. There's a shirt behind you of the great Manchester United, obviously a team you started at as well. I mean, that was the storyline, really. Michael Carrick in his first game in charge in his second stint at Manchester United. Dan, first of all, talk to me about the change, the influence of Carrick, what you saw different from Ruben Amorim, and then we'll get into maybe some of the bigger picture things.
Yeah, I think when Amorim was there wasn't a shortage of goals. You know, they're one of the highest scorers in the Premier League. There's only the top two that have scored more than them. But the problem was conceding goals. When they lost the ball, they were so open. And I think when you look at Michael Carrick, you speak to people that have been associated with Middlesbrough, you speak to, like, I've got quite a few friends, funnily enough, over here that are Middlesbrough supporters.
Yeah.
And they said he was so close to getting it right. But he's got an identity. The one thing I would say is that was one of the best Manchester United performances that I'd seen in a long time. And
I'd agree, yeah.
And I think listening to you and Tim yesterday, like at halftime, but then at full time, it was like, oh yeah, this is Manchester United. And it was a really, really top class performance. I think the way in which they were able to go forward quickly in numbers, the pace that they used.
Yeah.
I think Manchester United are at their best as a counter-attacking team. So you look at the two recent wins that they've had, Manchester City and Newcastle.
Yeah.
They had like 34% possession in both of those games.
And is that okay, Dan? If you're Manchester United, who we've seen probably have more possession, that more attacking flair, is it okay to be counter-attack style, maybe a bit more Mourinho than Pep, let's say?
It's okay to be if you're getting the results like that.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's not many teams in the Premier League that will say we'll dominate the ball over you. I think that's the issue that you can have. So you can say, yes, Liverpool, where they went to Anfield, got a great result.
Yeah.
Arsenal will always dominate the ball more than them. Manchester City, obviously Newcastle showed that, although United didn't have their strongest team. So I think when it becomes difficult, it's probably 95% of the time they're going to have to dominate the ball themselves and ask the questions. And I think from Carrick's side of things, I think he looked at it yesterday and said, right, if we can be compact in a 4-5-1, that means there's going to be less gaps between the midfield, the defence and the attack, and then we can break quickly with the pace that we've got. So from that perspective, it was an unbelievable setup. But now, okay, play Arsenal next weekend. They'll be able to do it then.
Yeah.
But when you're playing against teams sort of in that lower half of the Premier League, it's going to be very difficult to do that unless you get an early goal.
It was a day, Dan, for me, that I was kind of pleased. It wasn't X's and O's, it wasn't system, and it wasn't... Of course, the system and the tactics are important, but, you know, we've been so blinded, I think, with Ruben Amorim. What I saw, mate, was players playing with freedom, with aggression, committed, front foot. I thought the football in the attacking third was excellent. I see Bruno in areas where he wants to be and can influence the game more, so supplying rather than scrapping around. I just think, wonder, mate, and you know, you've worked under different coaches as I have. Sometimes if you get too bogged into tactics, kind of the game gets played in your head and you're not as energetic. You lose a little bit of that freedom and that way to go about your game. Seeing the contrast between a Carrick, and it's only one game, Manchester United and Amorim first United team, it feels so very different. Is there a sense that maybe too much was going on with the tactical side and thinking where I should be and thinking what I should do?
Yeah, I think there can be too much on that. I think if you and me were to sit down and have a conversation and I said to you, Robbie, name me your best three performances.
Yeah.
And you give me the best three performances that you had throughout your career. I guarantee you if I said to you, how were you thinking during that game?
Yeah.
You will probably turn around to me and go, I was on cruise control.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking.
Things happen, don't they?
Exactly. And I think that's... So if you look at Manchester United's first goal yesterday, the one that Mbeumo scores, you can take that in any recent generation of Manchester United and people say that is a Manchester United goal.
Yeah.
Now, people talk about the DNA of a football club. I don't get too much into the DNA because a lot of people that provide that DNA are no longer at the club, whether they're coaches, players, whatever it may be. They don't exist as much now at the football club. But I think what there was yesterday was Michael Carrick saying, listen, our biggest issue is defending. We know that we've got pace in this team, so let's defend in numbers, and then we know that we can catch Manchester City out in the counter-attack. So sort of if you look at the game yesterday, and you're absolutely spot on what you're saying about the X's and the O's. Yesterday, simplicity was genius for Manchester United.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And I think if you'd have asked Michael Carrick before the game, what would be the perfect performance? It would have been that. And let's be honest, I think 2-0 actually flattered Manchester City.
Yeah, you're right.
It could have been 4 or 5.
I mean,
so
it
was
was 2 or 3 goals disallowed and hit the woodwork a couple of times.
So where do you... So if you're looking at Manchester City, obviously Haaland was really quiet. Do you think Manchester City suffers at times because this team is built around Haaland?
It's a good question. I'm not so sure. I sometimes think this team plays some of its football excluding Haaland because that's the way they are, and they bring him in the attacking third. He does what he does. He's still got 20 Premier League goals, an incredible number for this start of the season. I think Manchester City, are a more careless City than we've seen in the past. I think they turn the ball over a little bit more. They're susceptible to counter-attacks more. Defensively, obviously, Elaine and Kuzanov were 2 young centre-backs who I thought struggled through the game. Elaine came off at half-time. They got Ake, essentially, which wasn't a great upgrade, I didn't think. And so I think that this City team have got to understand the mould of what a Pep team is, like that great possession, but also as soon as the ball gets turned over, they go to work again. They stop opposition. That's one part of Pep's teams that doesn't get talked about enough, how good they were without the ball.
And it's interesting that you say that because I think that's Liverpool's problem at the moment as well. Because we look at it like, and for so many years it was like, wow, Guardiola's playing this football and Klopp's playing this football. They're committing so many men forward.
Yeah.
And how are they able to stop the counter-attack? Well, the whole reason is because they both commit a lot of plays forward, so they're able to immediately go and press. But as you quite rightly said, I think Manchester City, when they lose the ball, if they're not in that position straight away to press, that is when they're so vulnerable.
Don't they?
Yeah. And United's first goal was a prime example. I think, was it a free kick for Manchester City and then one header from Maguire, and all of a sudden it's like the red arrows flying forward.
We could talk on this all night. We've got to move on because obviously we've got to get to a few other games. Before we do, mate, and I've got to get you to kind of the question where Lady Lowe's put me and Tim, and I was listening to radios and that last night. Michael Carrick was brought in as an interim head coach for 17 games in the Premier League with the view to, I'm assuming, somebody else coming in the summer. If things continued in this vein, I mean, you know where I'm going, so they beat Arsenal, they win the next 12 games, draw 2 and lose 2, if that's the right numbers. Should Manchester United be thinking of Michael Carrick as their permanent manager?
I'm seeing your face yesterday when Bex asked you the question, and your face sort of sums up how I'm feeling, which is like, if he does unbelievably well, you're thinking, oh yeah, you know what, he should be given it. But I think what I'm trying to do, start sort of stepping away and saying, right, before Michael Carrick did anything at Manchester United in terms of the managerial side, my biggest thing was, okay, it's important what happens on the field, but the most important thing is what happens off the field. Yeah. As in terms of, okay, what's going on with director of football? Who is the next coach that you're bringing in? So as much as you would love to see a Manchester United legend going into the football club like he's doing, having great success, and then maybe the powers that be turning around in the summer and saying, here's the job for you. I think I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to go against the grain a little bit and say, no, I don't think so. Now, that could completely change. Like you say, if he has an unbelievable run, but for me, Michael Carrick is in sort of a no-lose position because he's putting himself in the spotlight now going forward. You can see methodical. He's very much as a coach as he was as a player, which doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Yeah. Yes.
It's a good shout.
I think if it's a Tuchel or if it's a Pochettino, get the work being done behind the scenes, whoever it may be, and hope that Michael Carrick does incredibly well. Great then for English managers, and then he can, either be part of the new process or maybe move on himself. But I'm going to try and not look through the magical side of things, which we tend to do a lot
those
of the
tinted
time.
glasses and the Man United DNA. And I'm with you. And I like Michael Carrick a lot as a player. I like him as a man. The bit I know about him, and I think he's a really smart coach. I still go back to Dan. If he wins all 17 games and he wins all 17 games 4-0, the right long-term decision for this football club is not Michael Carrick now. Michael Carrick's going to be as good a coach as we believe. He'll go off somewhere else. He'll learn his trade, as others have done, as the Klopps did, as Sir Alex did, as Pep did. And when he comes back to this football club, he'll be in a better shape to take it where he and the club want to be. And so I just hope that, people can be strong with those opinions, have those opinions, and look for the right thing for Manchester United, because there's no doubt, we saw what the potential, even with this group of players, can be. If you start adding some other pieces and get things right behind the scenes, a lot more positive days could be ahead for United.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long, and for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.